William-Patterson University Television.
Welcome back to the desk. We are halfway through the NFL season, here to talk about everything going on in the world of football. We have Marc, Mikey, Phritz, and Trent. You know, guys, the trade deadline has come and gone, and so many trades, a lot more than usual. Definitely felt like, Mikey, I'll start off with you. Which trade do you think will have the biggest impact going forward?
I think the TJ Hockenson trade to the Vikings. Vikings are a really good team. They need another solid guy to throw the ball to. He's not a bad blocker either. He was drafted 8th overall for a reason. They didn't have to trade too much comparatively for him, for the talent that I think he could bring. Justin Jefferson takes a little pressure off him and Adam Thielen. Kirk Cousins going to have a good year with it.
Yeah, another season of the Lions giving up early. Trading one of their best players to a division rival has to be sad for our friend Najee. Phritz, what's a big trade for you?
It has to be Roquan Smith going from the Bears to the Baltimore Ravens. Coming off 162 tackles last year, currently has 83. The Ravens have been struggling with defense this year. They currently rank 24th, allowing 366 yards of offense. One particular game, you have Tua Tagovailoa scoring 28 points in one quarter against them. So this trade allows them to have that speed to fly around, and he can also cover tight ends. So it's a great trade for them, and hopefully will bolster that defense up to make that playoff push.
Yeah, the Bears have a young team with not too much talent, going on. Roquan Smith wants a new contract. He's definitely not going to get to Chicago now. Marc, what's your big trade?
Yeah, so for me, and I know you're going to call me a homer for this, but Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins is my biggest trade. The Dolphins are a very young team, and especially on defense where they got a lot of young players. To get a former team captain from the Denver Broncos who's got 6 sacks on the season right now, it's going to benefit them heavily. They're going to make a big push for the playoffs come the end of this season.
It is a big trade, but it was very predictable to see you picking a Bronco player. Let's just call it what it is. Trent, what's your big trade?
So for me, I have to pick Chase Claypool going to the Chicago Bears. Pittsburgh received a second-round pick for this, which was huge in my opinion, because the second-round pick for the Steelers allows them to have a lot more draft capital, which means theoretically they could draft back into the first round, and that's a lot of talent for a team trying to rebuild. And speaking of teams with a rebuild, it's the Chicago Bears getting Chase Claypool. They're trying to rebuild and offer more talent for their young quarterback, Justin Fields. So giving them a talented wide receiver like Chase Claypool helps.
Definitely a big trade. A lot of the receivers in Pittsburgh kind of wasting away with Kenny Pickett, but someone who has not wasted away in their career is Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals. Made it to the Super Bowl with him and Joe Burrow, an electric combination in his first season. But, Marc, I'll throw it over to you. I know you don't like seeing him in the AFC as a Bronco fan, but not in your Broncos division, but, how is this injury going to affect the Bengals?
Yeah, so before I get into how it's going to impact them, we'll take a look at the stats. Jamar Chase, 47 receptions on the season, 605 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, 13 yards per reception, about 86 yards per game. He is such an elite playmaker for them. Joe Burrow just gives him the ball on a slant, and he takes it to the house every time. Reminds me of watching Odell when he was on the Giants. He's just such a dynamic playmaker that it's really going to hurt them going forward. We saw it against the Browns.
Trent, a lot of talent in Cincinnati. With or without Jamar Chase, this is certainly a big blow, don't you think?
I mean, yeah, he's a very important piece to their offense, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't say it's necessarily as big a blow that should affect them horribly. They still have receivers in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase doesn't play defense, so their defense needs to hold up too as well.
Fritz, you're shaking your head on that one. The Bengals just came off a loss to the Browns. You seem to think more of Jamar Chase than Trent does.
Yeah, I think this puts the final nail in a coffin for any Bengals fans that think they might have had any opportunity of getting back to the Super Bowl. Jamar Chase is their offense. T. Higgins is great. Tyler Boyd is great, but Jamar Chase opens that up to give them those opportunities. He's that big play target where he can just chuck it down the field and give it to them. We always know that the Bengals have a terrible O-line. When you don't have that big target, it makes having those progressions a lot harder, and being able to have that guy that you're confident in that's going to make that lead. Sit at 4-4. A lot of teams in their division are coming up. I don't think they're going to go far this year.
Joe Burrow, definitely his favorite target, made his life easier with that struggling offensive line. Mikey, what are your thoughts on this injury?
I still think T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are going to put up numbers because they're talented. They were talented before Jamar Chase. But the problem is, it's a concerning thing for a team that's 4-4 right now. Their offensive line's getting a little better, but it's not really going to help. If you take out your top guy, it's always going to be a problem.
But they're still in it. The Ravens are not pulling away easily. The Browns and Steelers still very much at the bottom of this division, even with the win over the Bengals. But to keep it with receivers, there's another LSU former receiver that's currently still a free agent coming off an ACL tear in the Super Bowl. I'm talking about Odell Beckham Jr. He's going to sign somewhere at some point and help a team potentially make another push. Fritz, where would you like to see him go?
Yeah, I think it makes sense for him to go to the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think that it makes sense for him to go anywhere else. If for the team standpoint and for Odell Beckham, I hear a lot of talks about the Bills trying to get him and the Chiefs trying to get him. But when you look at those offensive, why do they need him? With the Bills, why do you need Odell Beckham? You know, they have the injury to Rashad Bateman, so he's out. So they need somebody to replicate that offense and to be explosive. Odell Beckham provides that. He's instant offense. If he recovers good with that knee, everything will be great for the Ravens.
Yeah, one critique you can always have for that Ravens front office is not giving Lamar enough receivers. Marc, where would you like to see OBJ go?
See, I'd like to see him come back home to the New York Football Giants.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
Yeah. See, you know, I know that Giants fans would love this, to see a homecoming of sorts for Odell. You know, they made no moves at the deadline to get a receiver, and I think that was a big problem. I know that they're confident in the guys they have. They've been able to win without some big-name receivers, but I think you really got to get that guy that's going to help. I know he's going to be nursing that ACL injury, but to bring him back home, I think would do wonders for the New York Giants right now.
Well, our best receiver supposedly is on a wasted contract at the moment, Kenny Galladay. And Richie James just fumbled 2 punts last week, so definitely a thin wide receiver room. Trent, where would you like to see Odell go?
I mean, I have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, he needs to go to a team where he's going to win. Odell Beckham Jr. is a winner. He wants to win. So you go on a team with Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid as the head coach. He's going to do fantastic things for that team, I think, if he goes there. And this whole season, Kansas City's been tossing different ideas at wide receiver. Who's to say they don't just say, why not? Go take a chance with Odell.
Yeah, see, he's not speaking my language right now.
But after trading for Kadarius Toney, do you think that Odell will get as many receptions as he's going to get if he goes to Kansas City? I mean, you know he wants to win, but he also wants to get receptions and play too. It's
a competition. You just got to outplay him. In practice, look better than him. Sure, they got Kadarius Toney, but they also have Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman. They have a bunch of different wide receivers that they're all fighting for the same thing.
You know, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid can make it work with anyone. Mikey, where would you like to see Odell?
I got to disagree with Fritz because I think the Bills is the perfect marriage for Odell Beckham. The Bills need a good number 2. Gabe Davis, great player, still has a high ceiling, but I think Odell gives them the floor they need as a number 2 option. And Odell said he wants to go to a contender, and I think the Bills are the number 1 team in the AFC. I don't think it's the Chiefs, so I think it would work best for both parties.
A little disrespectful to Gabe Davis, a little bit. He's good.
He's a great player.
He's a good number 2. We saw the Bills. They did trade for Nyheim Hines, though, so that might be an impact move to look out for, a receiving back. But to transition things over to some Sunday Night Football, I talked a little about the Chiefs now. We're going to talk some Chiefs-Titans, and, you know, the NFL block got to close it out with some big game picks. Trent, I'll start out with you. Chiefs-Titans, who you got?
Well, Kansas City Chiefs, who else? The Titans, sure, they're a good team right now. They're 5-2, but they definitely don't look like a 5-2 team right now, in my opinion. Their quarterback play is very poor, and I think the Chiefs are going to exploit that on top of the fact they have one of the best offensive units in the entire NFL. I don't think the Titans come very close to winning this.
You know, traveling to Arrowhead Stadium is definitely a daunting task. Mikey, who you got in this one?
I got King Henry. Derrick Henry is going to make the difference because if he can get going early in the game, it'll just set the Titans up for the win. The Chiefs are an amazing team, but, you know, once you get that going with the running game, you really have no chance.
You know, King Henry coming off a monster performance against the Houston Texans. I don't know how much of an accomplishment that is. They only got 1 win. But, Fritz, who are you taking?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Chiefs, no question. I don't think this game will be close. I mean, the Titans are 5-2, but if you look at the teams that they've played, they squeaked past the bottom feeders of the league. The teams that you would think that they would have beaten handily, they've scored only 1 point games against them. So I think that the Chiefs will exploit that and blow them out handily.
Marc, close us out.
Yeah, you know, I've said multiple times that picking the Chiefs to win any game causes me a lot of pain, so I can't do it again. So I'm going to go with the Titans here. You know, Chiefs coming off of their bye week, I think that that's going to play a factor. They might be a little sluggish coming off, and I think Derrick Henry's finally starting to get back to what Derrick Henry really is, and that's an absolute monster. I think he's going to run all over the Chiefs and ultimately get the win for the Titans.
You know, it's definitely, this is my favorite part when I get to throw my vote in here. We got a little 2-way tie, and Arrowhead Stadium, Patrick Mahomes, the Titans aren't going to keep up. I'm rolling with the Chiefs.
Smart man.
We'll see what happens. Thank you, Fritz. But don't forget to follow us here on WPTV at SportsDeskWP on Twitter and Instagram for updates and more. Join us next week. We're going to switch it over to the NHL block, some Pioneer football, and with the MLB World Series. Keep it locked here, and we'd like to thank Al Clark and the cast and crew. For all of us here in Hamilton Hall, I'm Jimmy Patton.